it's very interesting because when I show this image to someone, see another image on the slide, I didn't realize that now, what we used to call, this, what is it called, Wesley? When hairs are being plaited and they're done, there's a name for it, I've forgotten. But now people are calling it the COVID look, because when you look at it, it's actually a COVID look, because COVID looks in that manner, with all these things sticking out. But it's obviously an African trait of dressing. And it's no more about just wearing a plain mask. It's about the bling. It's about going out there and saying, I'm owning this, I'm embracing this, and this is who we are. So it's about identity again. So while your purpose is to be able to cover your nose, and follow the protocols, it doesn't mean you lose out in terms of what you stand out for. So this image is supposed to represent even the brands that are going to be going out there during this pandemic period. Don't lose your essence, redefine your purpose. So this is an image from Nigeria, and we can move into the next slide.
A COVID look?
It's a COVID look.
Okay. Okay, now it doesn't change. Wow. Yeah.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Welcome to technology. So this slide, why have I put this 99% of failures come from people who have the habit of making excuses? A lot of times, a lot of my clients, when I work with them, one of the things that really we're good at as marketers is excuses. And it's sad when I look at departments being split between marketing and sales, for example, and, not being able to work cohesively, and the blame game starts, it's because you haven't been able to do distribution right, or no, it's because you haven't been able to give us marketing support. But I think the essence of why we're failing is because, and this is, I'm hoping this marketers conference is going to bring this out, is that we as marketers, as a fraternity, have failed ourselves. Why do I say this? If you look at the medical fraternity, if you look at the legal fraternity, no one messes around with them. They have a law in terms of how things should run. They have a devised, policy, and in terms of the kind of things that are okay and not okay. Unfortunately, I don't mean to, I'm not trying to downplay the Marketing Society of Kenya now. I don't know what has changed since when I left, but I don't see things happening. I don't see us as a fraternity being able to put our foot down and saying that, wait a second, this is acceptable, this is not acceptable. So we need to start taking that up. And I'm hoping after this conference, we can start putting in, the required legalese or whatever it is. Even to have a marketer going out there, they need to go through a process. They need to be licensed to be able to go out there. Otherwise, we're having everyone just mushrooming to be a marketer and, disrupting what real marketing should be about. Like I said, it is a science, it's an art, but now together and start making it, the profession, the professional profession, and move away from making excuses for our failures. Next slide. So the characteristics of great marketers, and that's for the students in here asking questions. Marketers, and great marketers specifically, have unusual clarity in terms of purpose, values, goals, and objectives. And this comes down not only to your brand, mission, vision, and purpose, but it's also as an organization, because remember, we're all collaborators. Marketing is the department that collaborates with all other departments in an organization. So you can't have a company having one purpose and one mission, and then the marketing and the brand is totally disconnected and having a different purpose. So we need to go back to the drawing board and be able to define and make it very seamless, especially now with this new pandemic. We need to go back and review that and create clarity in terms of that. So that is the first thing that we need to look at now with this pandemic. Next slide. So a lot of issues that marketers are faced with, and this is a reality, we can't run away from it. And I think this is what is creating that pressure on marketers right now. Your bosses are all on your neck. We're not achieving numbers. We're not doing this. But this is a reality and it needs to be faced. Sales are falling and the stress is rising. Sales are falling for multiple reasons, and we're going to come to that. Working from home, I call it living at work. It's not working from home anymore, because there's no, we're talking about digital being the biggest trend and how marketers can be able to jump on that. And Sarah even touched on that element about content. content is not only just king, it's an emperor right now. And I say consumers are no longer kings, queens, emperors, they're dictators. Consumers are dictating what they want. They are choosing to do what, I'm sorry to use the word, but it's a click shit syndrome. You know, they can choose to switch on and switch off on whatever they want, whichever platform, whether it's online, offline, they're choosing to do that. People are worried about their future. Mental health is a big issue. You know, it is still not talked about in Kenya as much, and especially even from you know, consumers who are buying our brands. And we're now looking at consumers who are economically and socially challenged. And as we go to the slides, I will start asking these questions. Which one of your brands has actually touched on that? Forget about gifting and forget about just going and donating. Which ones of your brands have actually been able to resonate, you know, and be able to help in this area? Next slide.
Hi, Fatima, would you like to complete the presentation, then take questions, or
yes,
are you open for questions as we go?
I'd rather do that because some of the answers might be in the next slides.
Okay.
Okay, so most of you in marketing will have gone through this, you know, all of a sudden the boss is coming in and, hey, listen, don't sell, hold and watch, you know, we don't know what's going to happen. We're in a situation. And then all of a sudden, hey, okay, you know, can you find a way to sell, but don't be aggressive. You know, we don't want to lose people. And then, no, don't advertise. Everybody's talking about, let's not advertise. We don't want to hard sell. And then all of a sudden start getting comfortable and, hey, wait a second, coronavirus really hasn't slowed us down. Next slide. And then, oops, the vicious cycle started again. And everybody saw the second wave coming in and they were like, oh, yep, you know the word. And then we start telling, you know, our marketers and our teams in-house, listen, why don't we do this? Let's forget about looking for, take care of our existing clients, our existing consumers, because at least you know that they are loyal to you. So what can we do to at least reach out to them? And then again, we've gone into this thing, it's going to be fine. But now everybody's woken up all of a sudden and let's, you know, content marketing. We need to double up on digital content. But the question is, what is that content you're putting in, you know, out there? Is it resonating again back with your purpose? You know, so it's going to come into that question as we go to the next slide. So what has this pandemic taught us? You know, the first thing, and this is something that I've seen across all the African markets, is that localization is the answer. When borders were closed, you know, people were not exporting out because they wanted to take care of their own people and their needs and their demands. So it clearly showed that we were able to do a lot of things locally. You know, people were looking at things that they could buy closer to home, and closer to home here is both, you know, geographically, metaphorically. I don't need to go to the supermarket. What is in my closest kiosk? You know, what is in the duka next to me? Also, what are the things that I can buy now that are locally made in Kenya because I'm not able to use the brands that I was getting from outside. And then necessity became the mother of invention. I mean, everybody started producing sanitizers, you know, even without any knowledge, all of a sudden, like, oh, I can do this. People were doing things at home, you know, companies were making stuff, but it also showed, and this is something for the government, you know, to wake up and realize that, wait a second, we were spending so much money importing PPEs and this and that, and things were being, you know, people were able to make it locally. Right now in Ghana, for example, all the stuff that you're seeing in terms of masks, they're being made locally, you know, and fashionable, you know, things that you can trend with. So it shows that we are able to do that. Unfortunately for me, and this is the sad part, profit continued to be the key element in this pandemic before people and planet. You know, we had a learning to learn, but we've still chosen to take profit as the priority. And clearly this pandemic has shown, for those people that went out there to do something, is that we thrive in CSR. But here my CSR is not about corporate social responsibility, is cosmetic social responsibility. Quickly, let's go and give out stuff. Let's give out toilet paper. Let us give up, give out some sand. Let's take a picture. Let's show that we've helped. That needs to stop, you know. But at the same time, what this pandemic has also taught us is that we can build businesses, we can grow revenues, you know, we can be able to build brands as long as we make a social impact. Next slide. So some of the things that we did wrong, and I'm saying this only, again, sitting here and having seen stuff, you know, on social media, the brands that I've been following and the stuff that I've been seeing. One of the things that really broke my heart was how we tapped into panic buying. You know, We had no conscious in terms of hard selling. Let's push it. Oh, guys, you need, this product. It's going to help you kill germs. People started relabeling their products, just to be able to deal with issues that people were in a panic mode to get. I mean, the world was talking about toilet paper, but toilet paper really wasn't the issue, because a lot of times I try to tell people, the common man, the person who's selling on tabletops, the person who's living in Kibera, they don't walk into supermarkets. This for me is still a disease by the rich for the rich. It was the rich that were paranoid. They were the ones wanting to buy their baked beans and the toilet papers and the sodas and the waters. The common man was not going through that. Okay, so it clearly tells you, when you're talking about 70% of the consumers in Kenya, where do they do their shopping? Where do they do their buying? That's where we needed to focus. But we were focusing on something, modern trade and, or general trade, but that's not where your common man is going. And advertising, and Sarah, forgive me for saying this, it's not about you as an agency or, people that run agencies like yourselves. I'm talking about media, whether it's Nation or whatever. They make a lot of money. God, I've just seen the cost of what a full page ad is. I've seen what the cost of a billboard in Kenya right now, and I'm crying. Why are those fees that are being taken not being invested in doing good? You just see media doing these things. All they do is give you a platform to showcase what you're doing, but you've never seen it going. And I'm moving slowly to calling consumers prosumers, because we want to make them all about proactivity. So we need to start doing a force of good. And this is something that we haven't really done in this pandemic. Next slide. So responsibility for our marketers, and please, for the new marketers, please understand this. This is beyond. As you go forward, our role is solely to supply what humans need in a moral, conscientious, and transparent manner. Conscious is supposed to be the bottom of everything that we do, okay? And every dollar that is being spent, whether it's somebody buying our product, or our brand, or it's what we are using in terms of advertising, it should be spent in making a force of good. If we're not doing that, then you shouldn't be in marketing. You shouldn't have a brand. You shouldn't be in this space. Next. So what is happening? Okay, very similar to what Sarah talked about. It's about humans, consumers, prosumers, but humans, they are feeling a sense of loss. It is a fact. All of us are feeling a sense of loss. Brands are supposed to be giving a ray of hope that things will get better. It's not about selling over the top. It's not about, telling you we have an offer or we've discounted. It's about connecting to the need that you have at that point in time. Everything that I've seen during the pandemic, and again, I stand to be corrected, has been transactional. It's about transactional success. This is how much sales we've done. This is how much revenue we've generated. But nobody's asked, did it touch anyone in a special way? We need to now get into real-time marketing. It's no more like also Sarah said about plans and strategies and create. It's real-time. You see an issue right now, you go and deal with it. I saw stories about kids falling into toilets and dying, and you have World Toilet Day. Come on, if you are in that space, go and do something about it. Build a toilet. It's going to cost you what, 5,000, 10,000, 11,000 shillings. That is something you can do to make an impact for a long term. Consumers and customers are looking at engagement, but engagement is not about talk to me. It's about making me a part of making this change, making this difference, and impacting me. And purchases going forward are going to be based on disposable income, and I'm going to touch on this Black Friday, because Black Friday really irked me and got me into a situation. And as we go, I'll skip that particular point and go into the next slide, because we're going to talk about this. Next slide. The ability to adapt. This pandemic has tested everyone. Oh my God, companies, organizations, people, governments. No one had a strategy. No one knew what to do. No one had a backup plan. So it clearly shows that we've survived. I mean, I had COVID 3-4 months ago, and I count myself blessed. I'm not a number in a morgue or in the death numbers. So, when we think about it, most of us have gone through this thing, and you sit and you realize that, wait a second, it's a blessing, but we've been able to adapt. We've been able to move out with whatever's the old and move with the new and continue going. So the question then for you is that, Is that what our brands are doing? Are we looking at our strategies to be able to deal with consumers in that perspective? Right now, what we're doing as marketers is pushing, little things in there to create convenient diversions. But is that truly what your brand should be standing for? Is that what we should be doing for each other? Is this how we're supposed to be helping one another? Next slide, please. So there are 4 consumer types. I know Kantar did a fantastic review in terms of the tribes and that are out there. I did something different, and I'm going to share that with you in terms of simplifying what I felt the consumers, the 4 types of consumers that are out there. Please click. So the first one I call the step on breaks, and the second one's paid by it's okay. Step on breaks. Why do I say step on breaks? I mean, look at all of us, even me, even if we consider ourselves maybe mainstream or a little up there in terms of segmentation, we will realize that we have actually stopped buying certain things that we didn't feel we are justified for us to pay that much to get, and we're using substitutes. Now, if that's happening with us at our level, can you imagine what the common man at the bottom of the pyramid is actually doing, and what you're substituting? So we have this consumer now who's like, wait a second, I don't think that's a priority right now. I can actually either do without it, or I am actually going to change to another brand. So the question for you then as a marketer is that the brands that you're currently producing, do you have any brands that are appealing to this consumer segment? Then you have the pained but patient. And what they're saying is, this brand, I'm going to work with it because I do not want to do trial and error. And especially when it comes to skincare products, hair care products, pharmaceutical products. So what they will probably do to smaller SKUs, and say, I still want to stick to this margarine, or I still want to stick to this brand of, clothing or whatever it is, but they will go to smaller sizes. So they are still within your loyal bracket. And we need to check, do we have our brands right now that are in 1 liter or that are selling in 1 kg? Have we been able to move them to 20 grams? Are we being able to deal and touch these people? Next slide. You can press enter again. Then we have the group that's called the comfortable ones. For them, they are going to maintain because they feel they're okay. These are people probably hustling on the side, being able to get other things that are going on. But at the same time, that's for the mainstream and the upper end. The bottom end, if they've been drinking Strungi, they're like, nothing changes. I'm still going to just continue life as was because there hasn't been much of a change in what I'm doing. Then you have those that are called the live for today. These are purely the bottom of the pyramid. And what they're doing is focusing on, listen, my life hasn't changed because you know what? I remember seeing a woman who came on TV and she said, I'd rather die of COVID than poverty. Okay. And this is the state of affairs right now. So for them, anything that you do is a blessing in disguise, but they're going to continue living the life that they are, and nothing that you're doing is changing that. So the breakup in this, you will see, is that consumers, prosumers, humans have broken down things now in terms of what they think is essential and non-essential. Next slide. So for me right now, I want us to come out of this conference with just saying that if we are able to just take 10% responsibility for the connections and all that we're doing with consumers, and to be able to stop getting consumers to purchase for the sake of purchasing, then I think we've filled our moral obligation in terms of brands and consumers. We need to change the narrative. We need to create a purpose as to why you need to pick my brand. Next slide. Marketers were known to always preach, we sanctify authenticity. But COVID truly, again, like I said, what I've seen online, we know who's paid lip service. We know who has really taken this to heart. And I want you to go back to the drawing board and really start speaking from the heart and really start changing and creating social impact. I promise you, take this from me. If you start creating social impact, if you connect, you create that human connection, you are going to have consumers for life. Next. So this is the one that I wanted to really talk about. Is it the festival of consuming, or was it a capitalist consumerism? You know, if you all know what capitalism is about. Black Friday, for crying out loud, in a pandemic where people are suffering, people are some of them are jobless. People don't have school fees for next year. People don't have rent, to pay. Do you really think Black Friday was something that we should have been focusing? I mean, and on top of that, it's not even, come on, Black Friday sales, offers, da da da. Why would somebody want to go and buy a coffee machine, in a situation like this? Why would you want to give them a discount on that? I'm just giving you out, and this is clearly showing that we as marketers have really lost the plot. People are struggling, why weren't we able to do other things that would have mattered? We're treating consumers just as consumers. It doesn't matter. We're not treating them as humans. We're not understanding the pain that they're going through. So if you were able to give me something on Black Friday, why aren't you not able to give it to me for the last, 6, 7, 8 months that we've been suffering? There must have been something. Or is it that we're trying to, go through, this is FOMO, everyone knows, the fear of missing out, things like, wait a second, oh, I really wanted that dress. People are saving up because they don't know whether they're going to have a job at the end of this year. But we wanted to appeal to that sense. That's what I think it's all about. What is the purpose of our brands? If we look at that as a brand, as a producer, as a society, we will actually go back and start reviewing this and saying, really, was this something that was really needed? And then at the same time, if you're able to give me a discount at this time, why weren't you able to give me a discount during the whole period? What was it you're chasing me for? Is it to get sales up? What was it? So it's important for us to look at this element about being a discounted brand, because a brand that discounts has value. A discounted brand is just that, it's discounted in every sense of the word. Next. So this is what Black Friday should have been doing for me all year round, for the common man, for the people at the bottom of the pyramid. Why isn't there a Black Friday on tuition fees, on school fees, on hospital bills, on payment plans? Why can't we do pay offers? So why don't you take all this offering that I have, I'll give you a payment plan. For me, that's what a Black Friday is, and it can be every Black Friday, So this is what I'm trying to say, is that going back again and revisiting, what are we doing as marketers? What are we doing to really touch another human? What are we doing to really bend down and lift them? It's not saying I've come to pay your school fees. I mean, I saw some promotions and they were talking about giving TVs and, holidays to a destination when COVID is over and stuff like that. Why can't your first prize be that I will take care of your students' school fees for next year? So we need to, again, go back to the drawing board and revisit the purpose. And this is something that has really got me irked on this. In terms, no, next slide, please. Consumers, trust people that are here to help. And, we've seen there's so much choices that are being given. Everyone wants to produce. I saw a mattress company that has never produced sanitizers was producing sanitizers. I was shocked when I saw KBS and, going out and saying, this isn't legit, this isn't good for you. Clearly showed you that profit was the key driver. That's what people were looking for, was just how to profit from people right now, which is a sad advertising pollution. If it was not, people were not advertising on TV, on radio, honestly, the digital media was full of it. Every place you turned was something telling you why life is so miserable right now and why you need to buy this, not really caring about what you have as an impact. The information overload was there. You may think that people are not advertising on TV and radio, but please, if somebody can check for you the media content and what went up, that there was just an overload. So people now don't know what really is valuable, what isn't, what is true, what isn't. And then obviously with this whole overload that we have in terms of interruptions, now we're all doing digital, we're online, we're having to do Zoom calls, for crying out loud. My meetings now start at 5:30, they end 8, and that's why I'm calling it living at work. Nothing's changed because now everybody just thinks you're accessible. So we really need to, again, evaluate a lot of the things that we're doing as marketers. Next slide. This is a crisis, and our role is to impact lives. My friends, we're not here to do anything else but impact lives. If you have not impacted a life as a marketer, please go back and do something about it, because this is what we should be doing. I am not here to preach, about, oh, listen, it's about being an NGO, or it's about trying to help people, whatever. No, each one of us has a role, and that is what our purpose is. I want you to think of your brand, not as a human, but even as a brand. If it was going into a coffin right now, what do you think is going to be written out there that this is what it did? Okay, so please, whatever we do, this is what we're supposed to be doing, and let's take advantage of this. This is the only time we should be taking advantage as marketers, but it's an advantage to impact lives. Next slide. Food for thought. I don't want to mention brands' names. I just want anyone to mention for me a local or multinational brand in Kenya that stood for citizenry issues, stuff that citizens are suffering from, standing against police brutality, standing against corruption, supporting climate change policies, whether it was a Black Lives Matter. Hey, listen, even in Africa, we still suffer from Black Lives. We're the first people shouting out for America, Black Lives Matter. But then within our own homeland as Kenya, we don't talk about Black Lives Nike. I'm talking about in Kenya right now. I'm talking about Kenya. Show me an ad and a campaign done by a Kenyan company or by a brand in Kenya that is also see it. I want somebody to say that they put up an advert or they did something out there saying we're supporting mental health and the issues that you guys are going through. You know, I want someone to say that we have talked about voice against rape, domestic violence. Sarah, the Melinda Gates Foundation is working on this. I'd love to see which company is going to take that and run with it and say, here, even though we're not into rape or violence or products to do with that, we might be going to support and stand against rape and domestic violence. This is what I'm talking about. This is where we need to get to. But my question, and I know some of the things that are going to come in, is that, hey, listen, we're a conservative culture. Hey, hizo mambo hatuongeangi, mnakuja kuongea nini? You know, those kind of things. Or is it because this isn't who we are, or this isn't African? We need to change our mind steps. If we don't start talking about the issues that consumers face, we're not really doing justice at all. Next slide. So we are witnessing a firsthand, transformation that is ever happening. I know that is not a panty, by the way. It is actually a fashionable mask. Next slide. Collaboration. My friends, every one of us is accountable for all that is happening, all the mess, all the goodness, all the greatness. As a profession, we work together, whether it's creative agencies, brand managers, the media, the digital team. We can't just say that, so-and-so produced this and that's why it's a mess. We're all accountable for what out there is coming from a space of shared efforts and responsibility. So we need to sit and think how we can do this together and how each one of us, in terms of who we pull in to create an advert, create, a brand, even to engineer a new concept and an idea, how can we ensure that we are all a part of this and we are held to accountability for it. Next. And Wesley, tell me if we're done, because I think it's only like 4 or 5 slides I have left. So, like 30, what I mentioned earlier, this is not about a new normal, it's about the new minimum. A new minimum, the fact that consumers right now are all about bare minimum. How much can I be able to get as a minimum income to be able to keep myself going for the month? How much can I be able to buy in terms of quantity? What minimum quantity do I need to be able to wash my dishes, or to either wash my clothes, or to be able to cook at home? So everything is about minimum income, minimum purchases, minimum thought, minimum movement. So it's not about a new normal, it's about the new minimum. So I want us to all go out there and start looking at what are the things that I can do to start dealing with this new minimum. Next.